Good morning, everyone. My name's Matthew Judson from JSP Ltd. I'm going to talk to you over the next half hour or so about what we anticipate PPE to be like after the COVID situation, the current situation is over. I'll probably be looking at non-clinical workplaces. I think the clinical stuff is very different, and there are people who are better placed than us as JSP as a manufacturer of PPE to talk about that one. So I'll be looking at the sort of things that we should have been doing. I'm sure many of us were doing, and then what we're going to be doing now as we all return to work. Then we'll look at, there are some supply problems with trying to get hold of stuff, and how we can overcome some of those things to get back to a situation where everyone can get hold of the PPE that they need. So obviously there are restrictions. And then the differences between what is social distancing PPE, as I think we'll now have to start talking about, and workplace PPE. So the main things that we're looking at with this are really the eye and face and respiratory protection, the main areas that we're looking at as being part of the sort of COVID type of thing. So as I said, what we should have been doing, is looking and complying with the HSE's personal protective equipment at work guidance. They do in there very clearly sort of detail the sort of things that you need to do. And certainly in terms of respiratory, and where a lot of our core market has been up till about 12 weeks ago, was the construction industry. And they looked in specifically at construction dust and the things that construction dust can do. And they're still relevant in the workplace in as much as eye protection, etc., as well as respiratory products. So silica dust is a big one. It's still going to be there when we're working in the post-COVID environment. But a lot of things that you use for silica dust, a lot of the sort of things that you use protecting yourself against wood dust, and against engineered wood dust, which is much more of an issue than just wood dust. The diesel exhaust fumes that we're getting all over the place. And one of the things with the social distancing face coverings is we're going to see a lot more of, if you walked around in big cities, there were always people, particularly cycle couriers, wearing masks, and that's going to become much more prevalent in future. Asbestos still a big issue out there. It's still over all sorts of places, and even after COVID, that's still going to be something that we need to address, and we need to be able to keep on top of. Welding fume, both eye and respiratory, is an issue with this. There was the HSE had started to have a campaign to try and concentrate on welding fume and the hazards that that generated. Towards in last year they started, and that sort of thing will continue in the workplace. And then solvents are an issue. Probably not something that really most COVID products, or most what we would be looking at as COVID products, are going to protect against. There we need to be looking at gas vapor filters, which we'll talk in a little bit more detail about in due course. And cleaning up, cleaning up is going to take on a whole bigger scenario than we have at the moment, as well as obviously the sweeping up. And of course, HSE have been doing a ban the broom thing for quite a long time, but cleaning becomes much more of an issue now with cleaning for COVID and making sure rooms and things are sanitized. Wearing the right sort of eye protection in the workplace is going to be important, whether that be safety spectacles, and these two chaps, one of them's got over spectacles on over his normal prescription spectacles, as well as the other chap who's looking under the train there. But we do need to make sure that we're still offering the right levels of protection as well as protecting against the COVID type things. So if you're working with hand tools and embedded parts, so that the drill bit there is embedded in the wood, it's going to be relatively low risk. When we start working in a more open environment with bigger power tools and things, and chucking rocks around, which they would be doing on the permanent way here, then we're going to need to start looking at wearing goggles that are going to protect, and particularly with COVID, dust and liquids, droplet goggles to protect those particles coming in. One easy way to get around it is the sort of product that we launched towards the end of last year, and other manufacturers do as well, which is actual helmet mounted integral eye face protection as well, because the key thing that we're trying to do for COVID is to stop people actually touching their faces, and that's where the key transmission is getting in through the eyes and through the mouth from the result of people touching their faces. So as well as sort of integral helmet mounted ones, we've got stuff that can be mounted on the outside of a helmet or on a brow guard. Obviously the wire mesh products that we're showing there, not great for COVID and as a cough guard type product, because it can go straight through, but it will be there to stop people actually touching their face. So there's limited demand for it, but there might be some. One of the key things we've got to do is whatever we're doing when trying to protect ourselves from COVID, is to make sure that we're doing all the other things appropriate as well. One of my challenges in this business is making sure that my marketing colleagues have got, whenever they're putting something on, they've got the appropriate additional PPE. When we look at this chap, yeah, he's got some eye protection, but it's not really the right sort of thing to be wearing when you're angle grinding. I mean, he should have a face shield and really should have some ear defenders to protect himself from sound as well. When we're looking at respiratory protection for all of these things, the traditional products, the disposable dust mask type products, EM149 products are out there. The World Health Organization, certainly at the beginning of the pandemic, excuse me, we're talking about using FFP2 or N95 products, and that's certainly still the case for non-clinical environments. FFP3s are being recommended for the clinical working, and that does mean that there is a huge over demand for the product. A lot of HSE guidance has pushed us further up the scale to now pretty much an FFP3 disposable mask being the lowest level of product that you can use in the workplace for an awful lot of hazards. There's still hazards that you can use FFP2 for, but predominantly we've moved to FFP3 products. One of the key things that we were looking at, certainly before COVID came along, was the compatibility of respiratory and eye protection, and that's perhaps even more of an issue now, as we want to try and make sure stuff fits well. We don't want people continually touching their faces, adjusting masks, adjusting eye protection, because, as I said, that is a key route to transmission and to becoming infected with the hazard. So integral compatible product is certainly something that we need to make sure we're considering when selecting product. The sort of next level up from that, and something that has become much more prevalent during the COVID campaign or the COVID issues, are wearing of half masks and P3, EM143 P3 dust filters. Certainly, as far as JSP is concerned, this is where the largest demand is, and a lot of that is around the reusability of the product, which I'll come up to a little bit later to discuss in a bit more detail. The next one up then is we start looking at full face masks. You know, these are would up till now perhaps have considered this sort of thing to be perhaps a bit much overkill and really only used in those real high-risk environments. Well, it's certainly now in the fact that we've got that eye protection as well as the respiratory protection in a combined unit, keeping the hands away from the face, is a lot more relevant nowadays than it was just only a year ago or a few months ago. Powered air products, they're perhaps becoming more relevant. One of the issues with all of the negative pressure stuff is that there is a limited amount of time that you can use it. HSE guidance is that we shouldn't be using the products for more than an hour at a time. In a lot of work sort of places, that is going to be an issue. So powered air products allow us to work a little bit beyond that and do that. One of the problems you've got with powered air stuff is the cleanliness and the cleaning of the product. It is a bit more difficult and a bit more involved to do the cleaning of those products. But we do have a variety of hoods available with that product, and simply do other manufacturers as well to make sure that we can get a wider range of applications. So that's just a quick review of what we perhaps should have been doing. What should we be doing now? Certainly, what I think we need to be doing is to make sure that we are doing a proper risk assessment and putting in place an effective personal protective equipment program. We need to look at a lot of those things. So when we look at a normal program, we know we'd have, can we eliminate the hazard? There's no way that we can really eliminate the COVID hazard. We can do all sorts of things to try and suppress it, but we can't eliminate it. Normally, we'd be looking at this, we'd be looking to see, can we use an alternative product or process? Again, there's not really something that we can do with that. We're trying to use an alternative process is not something we can do. Certainly, isolating the hazard is somewhere we can get towards. We can do all the sorts of things by using barriers and the like to generate partial enclosures. We can have good air conditioning systems in the workplace. Ideally, we'd all want to be working outside, but which on a day like today is great, but sometimes it is not the best. So we can't do all of those things. Suppressing the hazard, and that's where we start to look at the things that the government is trying to convince us all to be using at the moment. So face coverings and these, so both in terms of masks and in terms of the cough guard type thing that we're looking at doing. Now, in a normal program, we would look at the residual hazard. The hazard is always going to be there. So what we've got to do is to make sure we select the right type of equipment to use to try and keep these things down to as low as we can. So not only to make sure that the product we're doing is adequate, but that it is also suitable for the tasks that we've got to do. There are a huge number of products that have crept onto the market in the last couple of months, but not all of them are what I would call suitable for doing things. They might be adequate, but not in terms of suitability. So when you're doing the task, is the product going to still work for you? Is it going to be a problem? So we look at something like a cough guard face shield. That might be fine for someone working on a construction site, but if you're a dentist looking down over someone who's below you, if you do cough, it's all going to go down and over their face, so not really good. And the key thing with anything, whether we're doing stuff post-COVID, stuff pre-COVID, in future, is to actually train people who are doing it, make sure they understand what they've got to do with it, and most importantly, how it is we can look after the product so that we can do things. So if we look at the image here, we've got, this is one of our non-PPE type cough guard products that we brought out as a result of the demand for such products. The person wearing this has still got he's got his proper PPE regulation, industrial safety helmet on. his face mask and filters, and he's got some EM166 eye protection underneath that face shield. But what he's got is that cough guard shield in front that is going to protect him from someone else coughing at him, and indeed will make sure any of his air that he exhales through the exhale valve is going to go downwards rather than forwards over someone else that he might be working with. As well as ours, you know, as I said, there are any number of these sorts of shields that have come onto the marketplace that can be worn on a helmet. We just must be very aware that whilst they may be suitable for stopping the spread of COVID, they're not actually personal protective equipment. Certainly by now, we should all be familiar with, when we go into shops, etc., is seeing these screens up all over the place, and you know, all of these screens and the cough guard things are limiting the supply of product that's available to make proper PPE type product. So face coverings is something that has come up quite a lot recently, and we need to make sure that that we have got those sorts of things available for people. But what we mustn't do is mix them up with proper personal protective equipment. So, and also to make sure that the right thing's being used in the right place. I mean, this is an image that is found on the internet of people obviously trying to use things, but being a proper PPE product for wearing in the workplace, and you know, an excellent product, 3M's product there, does have an exhale valve on it. So it's not great as a face covering, because everything that someone might be infected with is going to let out all over the place. The World Health Organization have got some guidance out about face coverings, and that's a link there. I'm going to assume that these slides are going to be available post the presentation, and that link can be found, but it is quite easy to find, and that's giving some guidance on the sort of things that we should be wearing in the right place, and when and how to use those sorts of face coverings. It's not the world's most exciting read, but it does make a lot of sense. When we look at the COVID particles, you know, under normal selection of respiratory protective equipment, we'd be looking at the sort of sizes that particles make. And generally, the sort of construction industrial type hazards are going to be around in the PM10 to PM2.5, so 2.5 micron size particle. COVID is an awful lot smaller. We're down at sort of in the region of a 0.1 micron. So when we look at the sort of challenges that we test the mask for, which are generally a little bit bigger than 0.1, a lot of people will be thinking, well, hang on, how's that going to be any good? But when we exhale a particle, various studies that can be found online, etc., are showing that particle droplet size around the COVID is anywhere between 8 and 0.8 of a micron. So given that we're generally testing down to about 0.2 microns, the respirators and things that we've got available on the marketplace are very good at doing that. The larger particles will be stopped by a lot of these face coverings that the advice is to be wearing around to offer you some protection. Now, obviously, obviously, one of the problems we got at the moment is supply. Certainly, we are manufacturing stuff as fast as we possibly can, but I think we're all very much aware that you know, if we could make more, we could certainly move more out to people. So, how do you, as a consumer, overcome those? Well, really, what we're looking at doing is, you know, how can we squeeze more out of everything? I certainly find it very difficult to get any sympathy out of my spouse, but what can we do with our normal respiratory products and eye protection products to get better? What we can do is reuse those products as much as we can. Now, obviously, with and that means cleaning the products. With disposable dust masks, that's a bit more difficult. They're called disposable for a reason. They're not really up for cleaning, but certainly in a lot of the trials that we've done over the last couple of months, most of the washing processes and cleaning processes that we involve does destroy the performance of a disposable dust mask. So they really are a one-use only thing in terms of what we're doing in the workplace. For facial coverings and COVID, you can probably get on the public transport in the morning and then get to wherever your workplace is and take them off and then pop them back on again in the evening to go on the public transport. But certainly, if you need them for protecting yourself in the workplace as well, then it's not something we can carry on and use. So, as I say, the clothing care symbols that you see, we can't do anything for those. With the reusable products such as our Force 10 and our Force 8 half mask, and indeed most of the other manufacturers as half masks and full face masks, we can do the cleaning processes. Now that the image there is a clip from one of the videos that we've got online of how to clean our products, and it is what I've now come to learn from talking to various clinicians is what they would call socially clean, and as much as we're just using a bit of soap and water and allowing it to dry off. So we know that's not going to kill the sort of COVID type products. So in a lot of the clinical environments, people are doing very different things, and we're still reviewing how well those work. But certainly Milton Atachlor, Tristel, Fuse, and a number of other brand immersion processes are being used, but too long an immersion will affect the product. So we do need to make sure that we follow the manufacturer's guidelines for that, and then once we remove it from the fluid to run it under clean water and then allow it to air dry off to make sure we don't affect the performance of the product too much. Some clinical environments where they were already using hydrogen peroxide vaporization cleaning processes, so with a machine similar to what we can see the chap wearing there and spraying into the air. We have got feedback from a number of health authorities that are cleaning ours and other people's products by putting all of the PP in a room and filling it up with the hydrogen peroxide vapor before then taking it out and reusing it again the next time that particular shift comes on. What we also saw just before we went into COVID was some people were looking to use industrial cleaning processes to do that, and there are a number of manufacturers of industrial cleaning machines, but they do tend to run at a temperature below that's generally accepted for killing COVID. So there are a number of health authorities that we're working with at the moment who are looking at running this sort of cleaning process at a much higher temperature that should kill the COVID off. So your best route to where we've got suppliers an issue is really to be where you can using reusable products that can be cleaned and reused. The particular filters that we put on the side of these under normal industrial use, we would expect those particular filters to last a maximum of 28 days. There are a number of clinicians that are using the filters for longer than that. Obviously, the filters aren't getting blocked by dust, and they do feel, particularly with the encapsulated ones, that they are okay to use, but our general recommendation is still a maximum of 28 days filter usage. So really, just as we approach the end of my time slot, what is PPE and what's not PPE? There's an awful lot of these KN95 products that are flooding the market in terms of disposable dust masks. The EU did come out with a recommendation that allows the use of non-CE mark KN95 products in environments where you need to offer some protection against the spread of COVID. But this does not take away your requirements from the HSE and others to make sure that in the workplace, if you need respiratory protection or eye protection in the workplace, that it does comply with the PPE regulation out of Europe, the 2016 regulation that came in a few years ago. There are a number of these products that are available that have come out that have been a bit dodgy. The British Safety Industry Federation have got a website, and on that website, when you go to this, if you go to this link here, are you concerned about PPE certificates? You can then get through to the European Safety Federation, where there's a long list further down this page of certification that is not all that it purports to be. There's over 100 cases that the European Federation have come across over product that's been brought into the country claiming to meet this temporary EU guidance, but really doesn't get there. So, as I say, it is a case of buyer beware on those products. So really, when we're looking in the workplace, just to summarise, you know, if it's an EN149 mask, it is PPE. If it's a face covering, it's not workplace PPE. If it is impact rated eye protection, it is workplace PPE. And if it's one of these very flexible visors that we can now get to put on industrial safety helmets and on hat bands that go around the heads, it's not workplace PPE. Just a quick cartoon I found online when I was looking for some images. This really sort of tries to get the point across that, yeah, you know, the guy's got eye protection on, but it's clearly not suitable for the stuff that he's doing. Just really a last slide from the NHS to say, you know, carry on and be safe. I had been hoping to take questions and answers, but I'm having some issues with my speaker, so I'm not sure I can hear what's being said. So certainly the online chat thing is part of this process. Can be filled out, and myself and my colleagues will endeavour to answer as many of those things as possible.
You have a question in the chat.
Okay. If I go to stage chat, so I don't know if anyone can see me or not.
Yeah.
Oh, we can see me. Okay. I can't hear anything. So we're looking at Stephen's question. Is that the one we're looking at?
Yes.
For an FFP3 disposable mask being provided solely for COVID protection, how long is it reasonable to use it in total? I think it's in this day and age, obviously, we've got a slightly different consideration for the product. It's going to very much depend on how well we look after it and put it back in a bag, etc. I think what we need to be aware of is that, you know, if COVID's getting onto it, it will still be there when you take it out of the bag again. So there is a risk, but given how available they are, if you are using it solely for COVID protection, it will probably be all right to use for about a week or so. But you do need to consider, you know, back to that risk assessment diagram I was showing, you do need to consider your own situation and see how long you think it's good to go for. It's very difficult for me to detail that one. Okay. Oh God, is there any other question? That's the only question I can see on my screen. You might have to read it out to me, Ray, because they're all picking up now. Many thanks. Martin Brogan came in the last 5 minutes. Okay. Is there an option to watch this again? Hopefully Rebecca will be able to share a recording with everyone.
Yes, that's right, Matthew. All the content from the next few days, including presentations such as yourself, they will be available on demand. So people just need to watch this space, and we will send all that out probably at the end of the week or the beginning of next week.
Okay, thank you. I can now hear you. So something's happened in
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Matthew. That was really interesting, and we had quite a few people watch and get involved, and I think once we provide this on demand, I think you'll probably get even more questions and queries come through. So we really appreciate your expertise and input.
That's quite all right. We've got a team of people here, so you won't necessarily get me to respond to you, but hopefully we've got enough people to keep up with everyone as questions coming in.
Absolutely. You have got your booth, and the booth is going to be manned today, tomorrow and Thursday. So if anyone has got any questions, I'd recommend you get over to the JSP booth, and a member of Matthew's team will be able to answer any questions you might have. Matthew, I don't know if you've got a chance, but Matthew Williams has just commented in the chat with a couple of questions. I don't know if you've got time to answer those.
Yeah, biggest innovations in PPE currently that need to happen, particularly in relation to coronavirus. I think probably the biggest thing we need to do is to because of the the issues of supply, those are always going to be there with the amount of stuff that people need, is to be looking more and more at reusable product rather than disposable products. There's always going to be a place for disposable products, and certainly in the clinical environments where they need to be clean and use them. But I think more in the non-clinical workplace environment, we need to be looking to use those reusable products. Certainly a lot of the things that we did before this showed that it was more cost effective to use the reusable types of products, with a lot of the suppression, extraction type things that we need to do to satisfy the workplace requirements. Those reusable products can go on for a lot longer and be better. I think the biggest, if you like, the biggest innovation that's come out of that is we need to look at a lot more about the cleaning ability of products, and go from where we were with the social cleaning sort of stuff that we were working to the more clinical cleaning that people are doing. So allow products to be easier to disinfect. So making products as low maintenance as we possibly can, or as easy to maintain as we can, it's got to be the key innovation that comes out of this.
Fantastic. Does anyone else have any other questions just while Matthew is live on the stage? We'll just leave it 30 seconds or so just to see if anyone else would like to ask anything. I believe there's more information on your website as well, isn't there, Matthew?
There is indeed, and my colleague sat over there was waving a document at me to say, yeah, look at our website. So when we go to our website, there was, when we look at the bar across the top of the screen, to the left-hand side, there is a drop down that's got some COVID type questions and things, and some videos of how to use stuff, and some downloads, particularly on the cleaning side of things. UV cleaning of products, Matthew Williams has asked. It is something that some of the NHS people are looking at, and we're working with a lot of them to say, yeah, please use these different cleaning processes. We'll get the product back. We'll run it through our test facilities, through our chill chamber, through our particle penetration equipment, just to make sure the product will still confirm. It's very much a learning process, all this additional cleaning that we've got at the moment. Martin Brogan, question on the government's approach to PPE in Dubai. We introduced masks almost immediately. A huge gap from here to the UK. Yeah, would I say the introduction of the masks in the UK should have been done earlier? Yeah, I think we're a bit outside of my field of expertise there. I mean, the simple answer to that is yes, it would have. I'm sure it would have been a lot better if we'd have done that. Obviously, us and other manufacturers, we're doing everything we can to meet demand at the moment, and unprecedented demand to do that. And I think we'll be left with masks for a lot longer. Raymond Puffett linked to. Oh, sorry, he's one of my people.
He's just sharing a bit more information there for anyone else.
Yeah. Okay.
Fantastic.
Right,
Well, thank you once again, Matthew. It's been very, very interesting and very relevant, I'm sure. And I'm sure you'll be available after this talk if people want to get in touch and ask any questions.
Yeah, will be. Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you once again.
Bye for now.